Good morning, students. In previous class, we have seen the types of antennas such as wired, aperture, array, reflector, lens and patch. We have seen the radiation mechanism. We saw that a two-wire transmission line without opening up of the ends will not radiate. If you open up the ends of the transmission line, it will act as an antenna and radiate the signal. We saw the radiation mechanism with the help of a video. We saw the basic parameters. Some of the basic parameters are radiation pattern, radiation intensity, beam area, beam width, beam efficiency, bandwidth, effective aperture and aperture efficiency, directivity, gain, radiation resistance, polarization, input impedance and antenna temperature. We saw the definition of what is radiation pattern, and we saw that there are two types of pattern, which is field pattern and power pattern. And we also saw that the field pattern can be represented in linear scale alone, but the power pattern can be represented in a linear scale as well as the dB scale. We saw the diagrammatic representation of it, where the elevation angle theta ranges from 0 to pi and azimuth angle pi represents ranges from 0 to 2 pi. Then we saw the parts of the radiation pattern, which is called as lobes, and the types are major or main lobe, minor lobe and back lobes. We saw the definition of all these components. And based on the amplitude of the radiation pattern, we saw that there are three types of antennas possible, which is isotropic, directional and omnidirectional. We saw the definition of all the three. We also saw the diagrammatic representation of directional and omnidirectional pattern. Then we moved on with the types of field regions, where we saw the reactive near field, the Fresnel and the Fraunhofer field. The design of antenna depends on the Fraunhofer field. We saw the definitions of all the three. We are interested only in the far field or the Fraunhofer region for the reason that its angular field distribution will be independent of distance from the antenna, which is very, very important in any antenna design. We also saw the diagrammatic representation of the field regions. We saw the definition of radiation intensity, which is the product of R square and radiation density. We saw the definition of half power beam width and first null beam width, which is also represented as BWFN, that is beam width between first null. And we saw the formula of directivity, which is also called as directive gain. Then the definition of gain. Then we saw the definition for bandwidth, which is the range of frequencies over which the characteristics of the antenna is going to remain the same or constant. Then the formula of beam area and beam efficiency, where the total beam area depends on the area of main lobe and the minor lobe. Then the formula of effective aperture and aperture efficiency. Then finally we saw the definition of radiation resistance. We saw a video of radiation pattern where you had a better idea on how the E plane and H plane radiation patterns will be available. So now we will proceed on with the next topic, that is antenna efficiency. The total antenna efficiency represented by E naught is used to take into account losses at the input terminals and within the structure of the antenna. Such losses may be due to two reasons. Number one, reflections. Number two, I squared R losses. So why reflections are occurring? Reflections is due to the mismatch between the transmission line and the antenna. I squared R losses is a combination of conduction loss and the dielectric loss in the antenna. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the antenna efficiency, where we have the transmission line connected to the antenna. So this part, input terminals, is the reference for gain and the output terminal of the antenna is the reference for directivity. In the second diagram you can see that the antenna efficiency is depending on three parameters. One is the reflection coefficient or reflection loss. The other is represented by IC, which is the conduction loss. The third one is ID, which is dielectric loss. So the overall efficiency can be written as E naught is equal to a product of three components, that is ER, EC and ED. So ER is the total efficiency, ER is the reflection efficiency, EC is the conduction efficiency, ED is the dielectric efficiency. All these quantities are dimensionless quantity, where the reflection efficiency ER is given by the formula 1 minus magnitude of reflection coefficient the whole square. So this voltage reflection coefficient is not a new term for us. It is given by the formula Zin minus Z0 by Zin plus Z0, where Zin is the antenna input impedance and Z0 is the characteristic impedance of the transmission line. The next formula is for VSWR, which is voltage standing wave ratio. It is 1 plus the reflection coefficient divided by 1 minus the reflection coefficient. The total efficiency E naught can be written as ER into ECD. So here we have a new component ECD, which is a product of EC and ED, named as antenna radiation efficiency, which is used to relate the gain and directivity. So E naught can also be written as the antenna radiation efficiency multiplied by 1 minus magnitude of reflection coefficient the whole square. So next parameter is antenna temperature. If the antenna itself is maintained at certain temperature T suffix B, which is called as brightness temperature, which is defined as TB a function of theta comma phi equal to emissivity epsilon a function of theta comma phi into Tm, where Tm is the molecular or physical temperature. So the brightness temperature is given by 1 minus magnitude of reflection coefficient the whole square into the molecular temperature, where the reflection coefficient is again a function of theta and phi. The value of emissivity ranges from 0 to 1, which gives the maximum value of the brightness temperature to be equal to the molecular temperature. So this is the formula for antenna temperature. So the antenna temperature appearing at the terminals of an antenna is given after it is weighted. Weighted means multiplied by the gain pattern of the antenna. So TA is double integral the brightness temperature multiplied by the gain. TA is the antenna temperature, which is the effective noise temperature of the antenna radiation resistance given in Kelvin, and G is the gain or power of the antenna. So assuming that there is no loss or other contributions between the antenna and the receiver, you can define the noise power transferred from the receiver as PR equal to KT suffix A del F, where PR is the antenna noise temperature given in watts, K is the Boltzmann constant given by the value 1.38 into 10 power minus 23 joules per Kelvin, T suffix A is the antenna temperature in Kelvin, and del F is the bandwidth in Hertz. So this formula of received power is with an assumption that there is no losses. But if the antenna or the transmission lines are maintained at some temperature, and if you assume that it is going to be lossy, then the antenna temperature has to taken into account. It has to be modified such that it takes into account of the line losses. So this is the setup for calculating the noise power of the receiving antenna. You can see you have the receiver. Receiver is connected to the transmission line of length L, and you have the receiving antenna. So this from the free space, this receiving antenna is receiving the signal that passes through this transmission line and it reaches the receiver. There are many temperatures represented here in the diagram. You can see the receiver is having a temperature TR. The antenna's physical temperature is represented by TP. You have the transmission line of length small l, and it is assumed that throughout the length L it is having a constant temperature T0, and it is going to have a uniform attenuation alpha represented with a unit Napiers per unit length. So the effective antenna temperature at the receiver terminal is given by this formula, where TA equal to TA e power minus 2 alpha L plus TAP e power minus 2 alpha L plus T0 1 minus e power minus 2 alpha L. TAP equal to 1 by EA minus 1 into TP. So what is TA? T suffix small a is the antenna temperature at the receiver terminal given in Kelvin. T capital A is the antenna noise temperature at the antenna terminals represented in Kelvin. TAP is the antenna temperature at the antenna terminals due to the physical temperature K, and T suffix small p is the antenna physical temperature represented in K. Alpha is the attenuation coefficient of transmission line represented in Napiers per meter. EA is the thermal efficiency of antenna, which is a dimensionless quantity. L is the length of the transmission line represented in meters. T0 is the physical temperature of the transmission line represented in Kelvin. So next parameter is an important parameter which is represented as G by T ratio. Antenna gain to noise temperature G by T is a figure of merit in the characterization of antenna performance, where G is the gain of the receiving antenna, that is gain in decibels at the receiving frequency, and T is the equivalent noise temperature of the receiving system in Kelvin. The receiving system's noise temperature is the summation of the antenna noise temperature and the RF chain noise temperature from the antenna terminals to the receiver output. Antenna temperature T antenna is the parameter that describes how much noise an antenna produces in a given environment. So this parameter is written as G by T and has units of dB per Kelvin or dB into Kelvin inverse. So G by T is an important parameter or figure of merit of any satellite system, where G is the receiver antenna gain and T is the system noise temperature. So next is an important topic, which is Friis transmission equation. So the Friis transmission equation is used to calculate the power received from one antenna, which is having a gain G1, when transmitted from another antenna with a gain G2, separated by a distance r and operating at a frequency f or wavelength lambda. So consider that you have two antennas in free space with no obstructions nearby, separated by a distance r. So assume that you have two antennas. So this Friis transmission equation is derived based on the assumptions, three basic assumptions. First assumption is the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna are omnidirectional. Second assumption is we assume that both the antennas are lossless. And the third assumption is it is assumed that the receiving antenna here is at a distance r, which is a far field of the transmitting antenna. So based on these assumptions only, we are going to write the formula of Friis transmission equation. So the Friis transmission equation, the power density P in watts per square meter of the plane wave incident on the receiving antenna at a distance r from the transmitting antenna is given by P equal to Pt divided by 4 pi r square, where Pt is the transmitted power. So if the transmitting antenna has a gain represented by G suffix T in the direction of the receiving antenna, by including that parameter, we can write the power density P as P equal to Pt Gt divided by 4 pi r square, where r is the distance between the transmitting antenna and the receiving antenna. So the gain factors in the directionality and the losses of a real antenna. Assume that we have an effective aperture of a receiving antenna given by A suffix ER. Then the power can be written as a product of PT GT AR divided by 4 pi r square. And we already know that the effective aperture of any antenna is expressed as AE equal to lambda square by 4 pi into G. So substituting this expression of AE in the above expression, we get the resulting received power as PR equal to PT GT GR lambda squared by 4 pi r square. So this expression is known as Friis transmission formula. So what is the purpose of this Friis formula? It relates the free space path loss, antenna gain and wavelength to the received and the transmitted power. So this is the main purpose of this formula, and this is one of the fundamental equations in antenna theory. For polarization method matched antennas aligned for maximum directional radiation and reception, the ratio of transmitted and the received power can be written as PR by Pt equal to lambda by 4 pi r the whole square GT GR, where the constant lambda by 4 pi r the whole square is called as space loss factor. So this is the same Friis formula but rearranged such that it gives the ratio of transmitted power and the received power. So next we will move on to microwaves. So microwaves are electromagnetic waves with a frequency between 1 gigahertz, that is wavelength of 30 centimeter, to 3 gigahertz, which will have a wavelength of 1 millimeter. Microwave frequency are further categorized into frequency bands L, S, G and X, where L is from 1 to 2 gigahertz, S is from 2 to 4, C is 4 to 8 and X is 8 to 12 gigahertz. So the properties of microwaves is that the receivers need an unobstructed view of the sender to successfully receive microwaves. That is, we expect a line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. Microwaves are ideal when large area need to be covered and there is no obstacle in the path. So microwave frequency bands. So radio waves are defined by radio regulations of International Telecommunication Union, known as ITU. The radio spectrum allotted for the microwave are UHF, SHF and EHF, that is the last three candidates, band number 9, 10 and 11, where UHF corresponds to ultra high frequency, SHF corresponds to super high frequency, EHF corresponds to extremely high frequency, where the frequency range is between 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz. Microwave frequency bands. I told you already that the microwave frequency is subclassified into many bands. So the band designators are L band. L band is from 1 to 2 gigahertz with a wavelength of 30 to 15 centimeters. S band 2 to 4 gigahertz, 15 to 7.5 centimeters. C band 4 to 8 gigahertz, 7.5 to 3.8 gigahertz. So very important band is available in the next, that is X band, which ranges from 8 to 12 gigahertz with a wavelength of 3.8 to 2.5 centimeters. So this band of frequency we will be using in the optical and microwave laboratory while doing the experiments. So next is KU band from 12 to 18 gigahertz with 2.5 to 1.7 centimeters. K band 18 to 27 gigahertz with a wavelength of 1.7 to 1.1 centimeters. KA band from 27 to 40 gigahertz frequency and 1.1 to 0.75 centimeters of wavelength. Next is V band ranging from 40 to 75 gigahertz frequency with a wavelength of 0.75 to 0.40 centimeters. The last category is W band ranging from 75 to 110 gigahertz frequency with a wavelength of 0.4 to 0.27 centimeters. I'll repeat again, X band frequency, which is from 8 to 12, is used in the optical and microwave laboratory. So this is the prefix, factors and symbols. So we know pico is 10 power 12 represented by P, nano is 10 power minus 9 represented by P, 10 power minus 9 represented by N, micro 10 power minus 6 represented by M, and in microwave frequency we are worried about the gigahertz, so giga is 10 power 9 represented by capital G. So this chart will give you an idea of all the prefix, factors and the corresponding symbols. We will move on to the advantages of microwaves. So because of high frequency, more data can be sent through the microwaves. So increased bandwidth and higher speeds is available in the microwave frequencies. Because of their shorter wavelength, microwaves use smaller antenna. We know that frequency and wavelength are inversely proportional to each other. So since the microwave frequency is in gigahertz, the wavelength lambda will be in centimeters or millimeters. So the size of the antenna that is required will be very small. So that is another advantage. Smaller antennas produce a more focused beam which is difficult to intercept. any system will have its own advantages and disadvantages. Now we will see some of the disadvantages of microwaves. First disadvantages, they require a line of sight path, that is, they require no obstacle to be present in the transmission path. Second disadvantage is the cost of implementing the communication infrastructure is very high for microwave communication. The third one is microwaves are susceptible to rain, snow and EMI, that is electromagnetic interference. Next is applications of microwaves. There are numerous applications of microwave. I have listed some of them. First application is it is used as carrier waves in satellite communications, cellular communication, Bluetooth, WiMAX, WLAN, wireless local area network, and GPS, the global positioning system. Microwave propagation modes. There are 3 modes of propagation possible, represented in 3 diagrams here. First one is line of sight propagation, second one is sky propagation, the third one is ground reflected propagation. So these are the 3 types of microwave propagation models or modes that is available. Microwave signal attenuation. So you can see the first diagram gives you the gain. So gain in a signal will increase the amplitude of the signal. You can see the first sine wave is having a lower amplitude compared to the second sine wave. And you can also note one more point, that only the amplitude has changed and not the frequency. So in case of attenuation, you can see the amplitude of the second, that is the received signal, is less when compared to the input signal. So only the amplitude will be reduced in case of attenuation and no change in the frequency occurs. So there are many reasons for this signal attenuation in microwave range. So some of the reasons are written here, that is reflection, refraction, scattering and absorption. These are some of the reasons due to which signal gets attenuated in the microwave range. Thank you.